Endocrine system is a collection of all animal hormones secreting cells. Hormones are made and secreted by the endocrine glands. Hormone is a substance that acts as a chemical signal secreted by the endocrine glands. Hormones travel everywhere in the body, influencing every aspect of life in very specific ways. Many parts of the body secrete hormones, but there are six major glands that are significant to adults. These are the pancreas, the thyroid and parathyroid, the adrenals, the gonads, and in the head, the pituitary gland. The functions of each will be discussed later. Every endocrine gland is a very highly structured organ. This is an example of an endocrine gland. The endocrine cells secrete hormones directly on the circulatory system, particularly in the capillaries. Through a microscope, it is possible to see red blood cells moving in the capillaries and veins. Hormones, however, are not actually visible. They are in solution in the blood plasma, just as salt in solution in the seawater. The hormones enter the general circulation. Unlike any other cells, hormones travel freely in the walls of the capillaries, so they travel everywhere in the body. Hormones only influence specific target cells. A hormone may have a relatively few targets affecting only a few kinds of cells. A different hormone may affect nearly every cell in the body. Every target cell has a chemical receptor, which the hormones specifically fits, as a key specifically fits in a lock. Receptors may be on the surface of the cell or inside it. A single hormone molecule may dramatically alter the target cell's metabolism by turning on or off the production of enzymes. A cell that is not a target for a particular hormone has no receptors for it, thus not affected by it. The amino acid hormones are water-soluble, hydrophilic, and therefore unable to cross the hydrophobic plasma membranes of its target cells. Instead, it binds to a receptor protein, reception, which is located on the plasma membrane and not on the cell. An example of this process is the function of epinephrine. When epinephrine binds to its receptor protein on the liver cell, the G proteins inside the cell, which are the relay molecules of the liver cell, are activated, which will trigger events inside the liver cell. Signal transduction. The next thing that will happen is a response or the change in the behavior of the liver cell due to epinephrine hormone. One of the three G proteins will dissociate from the other two. The dissociated G protein contains GDP, which is replaced by GTP when they are activated. The dissociated G protein will diffuse in the plasma membrane until it encounters adenylyl cyclase, a membrane enzyme that is not active until it interacts with the G protein. When activated by the G protein, adenylyl cyclase catalyzes the formation of CAMP from ATP. The CAMP formed by the adenylyl cyclase diffuses within the cytoplasm of the liver cell, where it binds and activates protein kinase A, an enzyme that adds a phosphate group to specific cellular proteins. In the liver cell, protein kinase A phosphorylates and thereby activates yet another enzyme called phosphorylase, which converts glycogen into glucose 6-phosphate. The glucose 6-phosphate is then converted to glucose. Through this multi-step mechanism, epinephrine hormone causes the liver cell to respond during the fight or flight mechanism by secreting glucose. Steroid hormones, on the other hand, are not water-soluble. They travel in the blood attached to protein carriers. When it arrives in the target cell, it dissociates from its protein carrier and enters in the cell by diffusion. Once inside the cell, it binds to an open receptor protein in the cytoplasm or nucleus. Rather than a signal transduction, the hormone receptor complex itself happens in the nucleus. One type of this action is that the hormone meets its receptor protein in the cytoplasm, which is the most common, and the other type is that the hormone meets its receptor protein in the nucleus. Moving on, the hormone receptor complex attaches to specific site of DNA in the nucleus known as hormone response elements. The hormone then activates the process of transcription and messenger RNA is produced, which will make way for the synthesis of other proteins. After discussing the overview of the endocrine system and the two main signaling mechanisms of hormones, it is very important to know the overview of some of the major glands in the body, the hormone it secretes, and its actions. Anterior pituitary gland produces growth hormone that stimulates growth and metabolic functions. Prolactin that stimulates milk production and secretion in females. Follicle-stimulating hormone that stimulates the production of ova and sperm. Luteinizing hormone that stimulates ovaries and testes. Thyroid-stimulating hormone that stimulates thyroid gland, and adrenocorticotropic hormone that stimulates adrenal cortex. Posterior pituitary gland releases oxytocin for contraction during labor and secretion of milk in mammary glands. It also releases antidiuretic hormone for water retention in kidneys. Thyroid glands produces thyroxine and triiodothyronine for increasing and maintaining metabolic processes. Pancreas produces insulin to lower blood sugar and glucagon to increase blood sugar. Adrenal cortex releases glucocorticoids to increase blood sugar and mineralocorticoids to promote absorption of sodium and excretion of potassium in kidneys. The adrenal medulla produces epinephrine and norepinephrine for the production of glucose in the liver cell for fight and flight mechanism. Testis produces androgen for sperm formation and secondary sex characteristics. Ovaries produces progesterone in preparation for pregnancy and estrogen for female secondary characteristics.
The topic is about the human endocrine system. The hypothalamus, which is just above the pituitary gland, connects the nervous and endocrine system. The hypothalamus is the main control center of the endocrine system. It is described as such because it controls hormone production in the pituitary gland through releasing hormones, which stimulates the anterior pituitary to secrete a hormone, and inhibiting hormone. The pituitary gland is sometimes called the master gland because of its influence on the other body organs. It has two distinct parts. First, the posterior pituitary, which secretes oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. Second is the anterior pituitary. It synthesizes and secretes hormones into the blood. The thyroid gland is located in your neck just under your larynx. It secretes thyroxine, T4, and T3. We will know the importance of these hormones later. The hypothalamus operates through the anterior pituitary to direct the activity of the thyroid gland. The hypothalamus secretes a releasing hormone known as TRH. In turn, TRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce TSH. Under the influence of TSH, the thyroid secretes the hormone thyroxine into the blood. Thyroxine is converted to another hormone, T3 and T4, that increases the metabolism and helps in growth and development of most body cells. Negative feedback loop happens when T3 and T4 concentration are low. The hypothalamus released growth hormone releasing hormone. The pituitary would increase growth hormone that would affect the body tissues. Growth hormone affects on muscle and bone, increasing the size in both. Too little growth hormone in childhood causes dwarfism. Too much growth hormone causes gigantism. Too much growth hormone in adulthood results in a condition called acromegaly. Facial features become rough and coarse, the voice becomes deeper, and hand, foot, and skull size expands. The pituitary gland releases a hormone called thyroid-stimulating hormone or TSH. TSH stimulates the thyroid gland to release its own hormone T3 and T4. These hormones travel through the bloodstream to stimulate metabolism in other cells throughout the body. The pituitary can also secrete a hormone called antidiuretic hormone or ADH that affects the production of urine. ADH is produced on the hypothalamus and is transported to pituitary where it is stored. When the pituitary releases ADH, it delivers a message to the kidneys causing them to become water conservation minded. The kidneys then absorb more of the fluid that passes through. As a result, less urine is produced. Because alcohol inhibits the release of ADH by the pituitary, drinking beer or other alcoholic beverages result in increased urine production.
Follicle-stimulating hormone or FSH and luteinizing hormone LH affects the ovaries and egg production. In the case of men, these same hormones affect the testes and sperm production. Prolactin affects breast tissue in nursing mothers. Adrenocorticotropic hormone causes the adrenal gland to produce important substances that have properties similar to
From the
steroids.
pituitary gland, after secreting TSH, the thyroid secretes a hormone T3 and T4 which flows through the blood and it passes back through the pituitary. T3 consists of 3 iodine and T4 consists of 4 iodine atoms. T3 and T4 are amine hormones that stimulates metabolism in virtually body tissue. It increases body temperature and it regulates growth and development. There is normal thyroid function when thyroid hormones and TSH are in balance. When there's an excess T3 and T4 in the blood, when it reaches the pituitary gland, it will diminish for the production of TSH, and there will be a complication called hyperthyroidism. Consequently, it will reduce the production of thyroid hormone because there is no break between the pituitary and the thyroid. This can make a person overheat, sweat profusely, become irritable, develop blood pressure, and lose weight. The most common form of hyperthyroidism is Graves' disease. In hypothyroidism, there is an insufficient amount of T3 and T4, and when it reaches the pituitary gland through the blood, the pituitary tends to increase the production of TSH. This can cause weight gain, lethargy, and intolerance to cold.
Aside from keeping our bones healthy, calcium is also important to our body. To work properly, many body functions require an appropriate amount of calcium in the blood and the intestinal fluid. It is essential to keep the heart on contracting properly, to allow the muscles to contract, to allow the nervous system to send signals, and to allow the blood to clot. The calcium homeostasis, or the calcium regulation, is maintained by the hormones from the thyroid and the parathyroid gland. When the blood calcium level is decreasing, the parathyroid hormones, which are produced by the thyroid glands, raises it back to its normal level. On the other hand, when the blood calcium level increases, the thyroid glands releases calcitonin to bring it back to its normal level.
Glucose is a simple sugar which is found in food. It is a source of energy for our cells. It is regulated with the help of two hormones: insulin, produced by the pancreatic beta cells, and glucagon, produced by the pancreatic alpha cells. Glucose is absorbed from the intestines and is carried by the bloodstream to all cells. The presence of glucose results to insulin release and prevents glucagon secretion. Insulin works like a key to open the cells in order for the cells to break down glucose and produce energy. Insulin also stimulates liver, muscle, and fat cells to store excess glucose as glycogen. A decrease in the sugar levels stimulates the release of glucagon secretion and prevents insulin secretion. Glucagon stimulates the liver, muscle, and fat cells to break down glycogen to produce glucose. These cycles regulates the body's sugar level to about 5 millimoles per liter. Diabetes is a chronic condition caused by disturbance of the normal action of insulin.
Your body uses glucose for energy. Glucose metabolism requires insulin, a hormone produced by your pancreas. Here's how normal glucose metabolism works and what happens when you have diabetes, a disease where your body either can't produce enough insulin or can't use insulin properly. The food you eat consists of three basic nutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. During digestion, chemicals in your stomach break down carbohydrates into glucose, which is absorbed into your bloodstream. Your pancreas responds to the glucose by releasing insulin. Insulin is responsible for allowing glucose into your body cells. When the glucose enters your cells, the another glucose in your bloodstream falls. If you have type 1 diabetes, your pancreas doesn't secrete enough insulin, which causes a buildup of glucose in your bloodstream. Without insulin, the glucose can't get in your cells. If you have type 2 diabetes, your pancreas secretes less insulin than your body requires because your body is resistant to its effect. With both types of diabetes, glucose cannot be used for energy, and it builds up in your bloodstream and leads to health complications. A third type of diabetes, called gestational diabetes mellitus, also known as GDM, is a disease which occurs when women in their late pregnancy produce high levels of glucose in their blood. The causes of the disease are not known, but if left untreated, GDM can lead to dangerously large babies which can complicate delivery. Here are some of the common signs and symptoms of diabetes: losing weight without trying, urinating more than usual, frequently being thirsty, hungry, or tired, having blurry vision, having dry or itchy skin, tingling sensations in hands, and having sores that don't heal. For proper maintenance of diabetes, the following are considered to be a medication for diabetes. By strictly following a balanced diet, proper regular exercise, multiple daily insulin injections, and monitoring the blood glucose level. Diabetes is not only disease that can result from problems with insulin. Some people have hyperactive beta cells that put too much insulin into the blood when sugar is eaten. As a result, their blood glucose level can drop well below to normal. This condition is called hypoglycemia and usually occurs 2 to 4 hours after a meal and may be accompanied by hunger, weakness, sweating, and nervousness. During periods of stress, such as preparing to run on a race, the brain signals the adrenal glands to produce epinephrine or adrenaline. These terms will be discussed later on. Epinephrine increases the rate in which the heart beats. In turn, the increased cardiac output supplies more oxygen to the muscles, putting the body in a heightened state to react. As a longer-term response to stress, cortisol secreted by the adrenal glands promote the release of the energy. The adrenal glands located on the superior aspect of the kidneys are responsible for the release of several hormones. The adrenal medulla or central portion secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine into the bloodstream in response to stimulation by the sympathetic nervous system to produce the body's fight or flight response. The adrenal cortex or the outer portion secretes glucocorticoids that respond to stress by increasing blood glucose. It also releases mineralocorticoids that maintain electrolyte balance by acting on the kidneys. The innermost layer of the adrenal cortex secretes small amounts of sex hormones that resemble testosterone. What is more about the fight or flight response? It's basically centered around his brain. In the center of his brain and the bottom of it lies the hypothalamus. In that area, it will send signal all the way down here in one of the adrenal glands, or specifically the central portion, which is the adrenal medulla. It is connected nervously to the brain. So when the guy realizes that the car is going on his way and might die, there's a signal being sent to the adrenal medulla. It's gonna give off what you call adrenaline. This adrenaline is the epinephrine. Epinephrine is attached to the circulatory system. When the guy's heartbeat gets faster and faster, epinephrine will flow throughout the body. The epinephrine is not gonna go into the cells of the body. Example is this liver. Epinephrine will simply bind to the proteins of the cells. What will it do to the liver? In the liver, it will trigger a signal transduction pathway that will convert glycogen to glucose. Glucose is a human's energy supply, and so now, glucose along with epinephrine will be coursed into the body and humans will have a supply of energy so humans can break down glucose and ATP. While in the digestive system, epinephrine will go there and slow down digestion. Epinephrine, when it goes to the muscles of the body, it will move more blood into those areas. Our whole body is designed so that there is only one signal that epinephrine will connect all these different responses throughout the rest of the body. In contrast to the epinephrine and norepinephrine secreted by the adrenal medulla, the adrenal cortex can provide a longer-lasting response to stress that can last for days. The hypothalamus secretes a releasing hormone, ACTH, that is often produced in response to biological stress. The gonads of the reproductive organs are testes in the male and the ovaries in the female. They secrete sex hormones, testosterone in the male, which stimulates the development of the male characteristics and the production of sperm. The ovaries in the female produce the hormone estrogen, which stimulates the development of female characteristics and the production of eggs. This video is all about the regulation and production of the body's sex hormones, testosterone in males and estrogen and progesterone in females. As you can see, the hypothalamus in our brain produces gonadotropin-releasing hormone or GnRH, while the anterior pituitary gland produces luteinizing hormone or LH and the follicle-stimulating hormone or FSH. LH and FSH are released and travel throughout the body and when they reach the testicles in men or ovaries in women, they signal the release of the human gonadal hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. The gonadal hormones then signal the hypothalamus to keep the same cycle. Breastfeeding is the way to nourish your baby with breast milk from your own body. Breast milk is produced in mammary glands. From there, it travels through milk ducts to openings in your nipples. When your baby suckles on your nipples, your body releases the hormones prolactin and oxytocin. Prolactin controls milk production, and oxytocin controls the release or letdown of milk through milk ducts. Breastfeeding benefits your baby by providing the optimal balance of nutrients, providing antibodies that support the immune system, reducing the risk of asthma, allergies, colic, obesity, diarrhea, and certain ear and lung infections, providing easily digested nutrients, and reduces the risk of sudden infant death syndrome. Breastfeeding benefits you by giving you a convenient and expensive way to nourish your baby, losing excess body weight, helping the uterus contract after delivery, and increases the bond between you and